tugboat was pushing a barge along the Vistula River when the workers noticed a horrible smell coming from the back of the boat. They got closer to investigate and noticed a big pale mass of something caught in the propeller. So they're looking at this thing like, what the is this? It stinks so bad, but they can't exactly tell what they're looking at until one man spots a human ear attached to it. So they all start freaking out because now they're convinced that they've just ran someone over in the water. But it's in the middle of winter and they're out in the middle of a freezing river, so this scenario didn't make a whole lot of sense. They do their best to pull whatever this is out of the propeller and onto the boat, with many of them thinking this is definitely a person. They call the police asking what they should do and if someone could come out and figure out what's going on. So in the beginning, the police were convinced that the tugboat had in fact hit and ran someone over in the water, either a professional swimmer or another employee who fell overboard. But everyone was accounted for, and it was hard to believe that anyone could survive even 15 minutes in the frigid waters. Police were trying to piece all of this together when they get a call from the medical examiner. Once they were able to sift through the remains, they were shocked to realize that the cuts made to the skin were actually made by a knife, not a boat propeller. The head, arms, and legs were all missing, with zero signs of hemorrhaging, meaning the limbs were cut post-mortem, and the skin was cut in a way that someone would be able to wear it around like a suit. A test sample revealed that the victim was female and that she had been dead for around 2 weeks before her remains were put into the water. To determine who this person was, DNA was ran against the remains. The skin suit was that of 23-year-old 𝚃𝚎𝚛𝚛𝚘. She had gone missing in November of 1998 after she didn't show up to a doctor's appointment with her mother. 𝚃𝚎𝚛𝚘𝚘 was born on June 1, 1975, near the Polish city of Kraków. She was said to be a sweet and caring person. She was raised by 2 living parents until her father passed away in 1996, which led 𝚃𝚎𝚛𝚘 down a path of depression. She struggled with the death of her father for a while until she made a change for herself in 1998. She enrolled in Jagiellonian University and studied history and religion, which kept her busy and grounded. On November 12, 1998, 𝚃𝚎𝚛 was supposed to meet her mother for a doctor's visit, but she didn't show up. Her mother was told that due to her depression, 𝚃𝚎𝚛 must have ran away, but her mother knew better than this. She knew her daughter wouldn't run away, but she was told to just wait it out. She spent a lot of time and money searching for her daughter to no avail, and after the remains were discovered, her fears were proven true. She knew something terrible had happened to her daughter, and nobody listened to her. 6 days after the skinned torso was recovered, another portion of 𝚃𝚎𝚛 was found in the Vistula. Shreds of clothing and parts of her dismembered right leg were found floating near a shoreline. Now, by 1999, they had developed a profile of their killer. They felt that this was someone who had sadistic fantasies, someone with a background in martial arts who also either worked in the medical field or had a history of working with human remains. They suspected an individual who fit this profile, but couldn't tie him to the crime. This case took a sudden stall since they had so little of their victim and very little evidence to go on. But that would change in May of 1999 after police uncovered another human skin suit. An elderly man was visiting with who he thought was his son on a park bench, but something was off about his son. He sounded a little different, he talked a little different, and from what he could see, he also looked a bit different. Now, this elderly man didn't have the best vision or hearing, but he felt in his gut that this was not his son. After the confusing visit, the man goes home, and to his disbelief, he finds his son dead in the basement of his home. Now, the police arrive to one of the most unforgettable crime scenes. The victim is completely nude. He's strung up from the ceiling by his ankles, with his shoulders partially on the floor. His body is covered in stab wounds and abrasions. His head is missing, and there's blood covering a majority of the cellar. They're searching for the head when they find the skinned head and face of the victim. Now, whoever killed this man cut off his head before skinning his face and scalp. The killer then stitched a portion of the neck and face together to be worn like a mask. The victim was a 50-year-old man named Witali, and it was proven that he was murdered by his own son, Vladimir. Vladimir was a 26-year-old living with his father in Krakow. Through the investigation, Vlad admitted to killing his father. He said that he lured his father into the basement cellar, where he then tried to kill him using a stun gun. When that failed, he stabbed his father to death with a screwdriver. He then undressed his father, strung him up like a deer by his feet, cut his head off using a scalpel and a shovel, while a bucket collected a lot of the blood underneath. He then took the head to his room, where he skinned it and sewed it together in a way where he could wear it. He placed his father's face over his, dressed up in his father's clothing, and then met his grandfather on a park bench, disguising himself as his own father. After his grandfather became suspicious, he stashed some of the evidence nearby and then left the area, and he was later found at a bus stop trying to flee the city. After his arrest, he confessed to the murder, but police were interested to know if Vlad had also killed 𝚃𝚎 in 1998. In their research, they discovered that both 𝚃𝚎 and Vlad had attended the same university. The medical examiner determined that both victims had been stabbed prior to being dismembered, and they were both worn as a suit. But as the investigation went on, police only had evidence to prove that Vlad killed his father and not 𝚃𝚎 Vlad had also denied killing her. He admitted that he killed his father as an act of revenge and that he believed he created an art form out of his father's remains. Vladimir was sentenced to 25 years in prison for the death of his father, and 𝚃𝚎's case would stall until 2012, and this is when her body would be exhumed and examined for further evidence. A fresh new set of eyes determined that 𝚃𝚎 was stabbed in the groin, the armpit, and the neck. They believed that this was a form of torture and a way to make her bleed out faster. Now, they also discovered that her torso was actually removed while she was still alive, and that she most likely died from shock before she died from blood loss. Now, after finding all of this out, they were really nervous that they weren't going to catch this person, and they didn't until 2017. When an anonymous letter was written to police stating they knew who killed 𝚃𝚎. The man said it was his friend, 52-year-old Robert Janzewski. This turned out to be the same man the police had on their radar back in '99, who they couldn't tie to the murder. So on October 4th, 2017, nearly 2 decades after the murder, authorities apprehended Robert. A search of his residence revealed blood in the bathroom, prompting the securing of the bathtub and its frame for additional analysis. Now, if they ever found 𝚃𝚎's blood, I'm not sure, but I would guess that they did, considering he was arrested after that. But then this is where this case gets really iffy, because investigators requested a closed trial, not open to the public, and wouldn't comment on anything related to the case. We aren't sure how much time Robert received or if he was even convicted at all. The only information I could find was that Robert was still in prison in 2019. He was charged with aggravated murder with particular cruelty. The Court of Appeal consented to prolong his detention until September 6, 2018, as investigators continued to collect evidence. Now, exploring all other avenues, like I usually do, I found a few blogs that mentioned police did find 𝚃𝚎's DNA in Robert's bathroom, and that's why he's been held in prison this entire time. But I have yet to find out if that's actually true from a police report. One thing that stood out to me was the way that both remains were cut. If you look at them side by side, you can see that there is the same type of cut running down the same side of both torsos, almost like a signature. Why you would cut the skin in that way, I'm not sure. Straight across or in a neater fashion would have made more sense. They were both stabbed, drained of their blood, dismembered, and then skinned. A killing like this is rare. It's very, very rare, and I understand that Vlad never admitted to killing 𝚃𝚎, but neither did Robert. I found quite a few other blogs to say that Robert kidnapped, drugged, assaulted, and held 𝚃𝚎 captive for weeks before her death. But I don't have any proof of this being true, as Robert still claims that he never even knew her. Now, I don't know if I believe if Robert is guilty or not. Something tells me he is, something tells me he isn't. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and feel free to share this video. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. As always, your subs and love are greatly appreciated. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you at the next one.